Hey everyone, welcome back to another Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series reviews. Today we're taking an early look at another Wave 3 figure, the Albertaceratops. And let me say a huge thank you to David for sending out some of these production samples so I could take an early look at these awesome looking figures. So Wave 3 is finally upon us. If you've been following the Kickstarter updates, the target delivery for Wave 3 is around the beginning of December. But we all know shipping around the world is an absolute disaster right now, so there is potential for delays for these figures to ship a little later than that. But right now the target is early December, which means there's still time to lock in the special pre-order price on these figures. Once the figures physically come into stock, they will retail for their regular retail price. You can get the Albertaceratops for $85 if you pre-order it. If you wait till it comes into stock, it's going to cost you $89.99. All you need to do is follow the link to Creative Beast Studios, which is down below in the description, to lock in your pre-order. The Albertaceratops is another figure I was really looking forward to in this series. Actually, I've been looking forward to every figure because they're all awesome, but man, the paint scheme on this one, I haven't even taken out the packaging yet, looks absolutely incredible. So enough chit chat, let's take a quick look at the packaging and crack this beauty open. Comes in the big box. If you got the Pachyrhinosaurus or Centrosaurus in, this is the same size box that those came in. You have some beautiful artwork of the Albertaceratops, not Albertosaurus. Those aren't out yet. That's a little slip of the tongue. Comes on this removable sleeve, and then you have the Beast of Mesozoic logo all decked out in red foil trim. Turn the box to the side. You got the logo and the Triceratops, and turn around to the back. On the sleeve, you have some information about Albertaceratops, and you can remove the sleeve off the figure. Actually, mine is still taped to the box, but you do have a nice checklist of all the Wave 3 Ceratopsians. So enough about the packaging. Let's crack this figure open and take a closer look. All right, let's start with a nice 360-degree view of the Albertaceratops. Another beautiful figure in a line full of beautiful looking figures. Really love how the paint scheme came out on this. Now, just like most figures in the series, the color scheme is inspired by real-life reptiles and amphibians, and the Albertaceratops is based on the black-faced lizard, also known as the greater spiny lizard. And I really love how this complex paint scheme came out. There's really a lot going on here. The head is primarily painted in black, then you have splashes of rusty orange, and then you have like little specks of white and blue on the face, the forearms, and some nice deep blue along the belly. I think that adds a nice contrast to the overall look of the figure, and I just love how the black, the orange, and the white contrast against each other. Then when we get down to about the hip region, all that black starts to go away and just left with this really off-white color with a little bit of that rusty orange. I think that's a really cool looking transition, and I just think this figure turned out absolutely fantastic, and I love the head sculpt on here. And just like all the other figures in the series, you do get a nice collector card inside the packaging. It's the same artwork that's on the sleeve, and then on the back of the card, you do get some facts about Albertaceratops. For measurements, this figure is 14 inches long from the tip of the beak to the tip of that short tail, and just about 7 inches tall to the top of the frill. So Albertaceratops in real life was 19 feet long, so I'll put this figure somewhere in the 1/17 scale range. All right, let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure style with this beautiful looking head sculpt. I just love how all the paint apps really bring the head sculpt to life on here. Love how the brow horns turned out. Very natural looking. They're painted a bone color, and they're highlighted by a nice dry brushing of black. Gives them a very natural look. And same thing with the horns on the top of the frill. They have that nice bone color and dry brush, and definitely one of the more natural looking horns in the series. The eye is painted in yellow with a black pupil. You have all that nice rusty orange mixing in with that black, and I just love these splashes of deep blue before the eye, and behind the eye you have a little speckling of white to have some nice contrast. And then going down to the beak, you can see the beak is also painted in that same bone color with that dry brushing, and then opening the mouth up. The mouth is kind of closes really tight on this figure. About the farthest you can open it, but inside you do have an articulated tongue that you can manipulate with your finger up and down, and a little bit of side to side. And then if you look inside the mouth, my camera always has a tough time getting light in there. There are teeth sculpted in there, and the inside of the mouth is a very deep pink color with a nice glossy coat. And then look in the figure from the front. Let's get a look at that frill and let the camera focus in on that. You can see we have some nice orange highlighted by white, and then you have some bumps along the midline of the frill picked out in a bone white color. Same thing with all the spikes along the frill, all nicely done, very natural looking. And then turn the figure over, you can see the underside of the throat has a lot of nice detail on it, a lot of nice washes to bring out all that beautiful scale detail. And then going down to the neck is primarily black. You have a splash of orange with white specks in it. And then right here along the top of the back, you have this dry brushing of like this metallic blue color. It gives it like an iridescent sheen. Kind of reminds me of reptile scales. That's a really, really nice touch. And then going down to the front arms, you have some nice speckling of white and blue, then you have some black, and it transitions into a dark orange color highlighted by white. And then we get down to the front legs, turns into primarily all black, and the toenails are picked out in a glossy white coat. And then going down to the main body, more of that black highlighted by orange spots. You have some more white rimmed by that rusty orange. And then looking at it from the top, you can see those large scales on the back are picked out in that bone white color, dry brushed with orange, and that goes all the way down to about the midpoint of the tail. Then you have some more splashes of blue along the belly. I love the color blue on dinosaur figures. It's always like one of my favorite colors. I just love seeing that. And then turn the figure over. On the underside, you can see some nice belly scales. The inside of the feet are also really, really nicely detailed. You can see a little hole right here. I think bases weren't planned for this, but I feel like bases were planned at one point, or, you know, we can use them on a stand to, you know, pose these figures a little bit better. I'm sure you can need a pretty big stand with a peg hole to get these things to balance on like 1 foot, which I might have to track one down because I really love posing these things. And then going down to the hind legs, you can see more of that black mixing with white and orange. And then the back leg is more of a brown color with a nice wash over. You have a little bit of black striping around the kneecaps. Same thing with the toe claws. They are painted in with that glossy white color. And then we get to about the midsection right here. All that black transitions into this off-white color mixed in with some of that orange, and that's really cool looking, just going from dark to light. And then going down to the tail, you can see some of that rusty brown orange striping mixed in with a little bit of brown. We get to the tip of the tail, it's mostly black and brown colored. And then turn it around, let's look at it from the other side. So yeah, just really love how the paint job came out here. It's a pretty complex looking paint job, one of the more complex ones I've seen on you know, all the figures I have on hand. And I think this turned out absolutely beautiful looking. I just love this thing. Even got a little bit of highlight of blue on the underside of the tail and right behind the hind leg. So yeah, definitely one of my favorite painted figures in the entire series so far. Now for articulation, as you can see, the mouth closes really flush on here. Some figures, the mouth closes flush, others don't because of the way the beak is sculpted. So I'm very happy to see when the mouth closes fully flush on these figures. Mouth can open up about that far. We already covered the articulation on the tongue. You can swing the head a little bit from side to side. Can look up that far, can look down about that much. And then from the front, you do get some nice side to side movement with those two joints working in tandem. And then going down to the front legs can swing out, they can swing in, and you can rotate them 360 degrees. Now remember how I said on my Pentaceratops review the joints were like really smooth, no issues. The joints are really, really tight on this Albertasaurus. I'm glad I waited a couple days to do the review to work these joints over. The elbows can bend just under 90 degrees. You have a little bit of tilt at the wrist, and you can rotate the front hands going down to the midpoint of the body. You get a little bit of rotation with that mid joint, and it does pivot. You can angle the back down a little bit if you would like with that joint, or you can place it back up. Going down to the hind legs, they can rotate 360 degrees. Now the hind knee joints on this figure are really, really tight. I've had a lot of trouble bending them. I've worked them out a little bit, and that is probably the most I can get it right now. I don't want to put too much stress on the joint. I'm still going to work it over with some hot water and a hair dryer and get it loosened up. There's probably some paint on the joints, which does happen with these figures. And then going down to the ankle joint, this one is really, really tight too, but I can get the rotation on it and a little bit of tiltage with the hind foot and rotation with the hind foot. And then going down to the tail, we get some nice up and down, side to side movement with that ball joint in there. So that will cover it for articulation. Let's move on to comparisons. All right, first up, here's one of the human figures from the Mattel line. Here it is with Dr. Grant. And next up here it is with PNSO's Wilson the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And next up here it is with the old Kenner Red Rex to give you an idea of how big the T-Rex is going to be when the Beast of Mesozoic Rex comes out in just about a year or so. And here it is with the Amber Collection JP3 Raptor. And here it is with the old Rosaurus Carnage Collection Styracosaurus, one of the OG articulated dinosaur figures. And next up here it is with the previously reviewed Pentaceratops, and they look absolutely gorgeous next to each other. Now, one thing I missed with the Pentaceratops review, David actually pointed out to me, the Pentaceratops and the Utaceratops have a new torso piece. It's actually bigger and bulkier than the piece used on the Albertaceratops, Centrosaurus and Pachyrhinosaurus, and having them next to each other, I can definitely see that it gives this figure a lot more heft and beef because of that bigger torso. And next up, here's a couple other body sizes from the Ceratopsian series. Here it is with Wendyceratops and Chasmosaurus. Now, these three right here are all from the same formation, the Oldman Formation, so it's really nice that we're getting, figures that actually belong in the same formation as each other. And speaking of the Oldman Formation, here's a nice group shot of some of the species found there. We have the Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsians, which, fun fact, was my first figure ever from any of the series. The PNSO Parasaurolophus, Wendyceratops, Safari Limited Daspletosaurus, Collecte Strutiomimus, PNSO Corythosaurus, that, God, I can't stand that figure, it just always keeps falling over. The Chasmosaurus, and the Beast of the Mesozoic Dromaeosaurus, and I can't wait for the 1/18 scale Raptor figures to come out because they're going to look absolutely fantastic next to these Ceratopsians, and also can't wait for the Beast of the Mesozoic Daspletosaurus. That was definitely one of my top wants from the Kickstarter. So, final thoughts on the Albertaceratops. If you watched any of my reviews on any of these figures, I always give them high praise. And same thing goes for this Albertaceratops. And I gotta say, I am in love with the paint scheme. It's not the most popular species. I feel like I might get overshadowed in the line from the more popular ones. But this paint scheme is amazing. It's definitely one of the more complex ones in the series. And I really, really love how it turned out. Just love the splashes of deep blue on there. Really adds some nice details to it, especially that metallic dry brushing of blue paint. That's a really, really nice touch. So all in all, another fantastic figure in a series full of fantastic figures. Seriously, you can't go wrong with owning at least one of these figures. As soon as you get one, you're going to want more. They are that incredible. And like I said at the beginning of the review, you still have time to pre-order these Wave 3 figures for that special pre-order price if you want to save a few bucks. The link to Creative Beast Studios is down below in the description. You probably only have like 2 or 3 more weeks to lock them in for the pre-order price before they physically come into stock. So that will do it for the review. I do have one more figure coming in from Wave 3 for an early review, but that won't be here until probably the end of next week or maybe like the very beginning of Thanksgiving week. So be on the lookout for that one. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously and is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.